Hello there, I am Bonnie. Thank you for tuning in. For today's video, I thought it would be really interesting to take a look at the planning process of my October setup, because it is always good to put into perspective all the planning that goes into a theme, especially if it's like a very elaborate, maximalist one that in the end looks so well thought out and put together, but maybe it didn't start this way. And a great example, other than my October theme, which we will be discussing today, is Journal Away. She always has the most spectacular bullet journal themes, and also Mingo Studio. I love and I look forward to their setups every month, and they always look so thought out. And I don't know about their planning process, but having done such an elaborate theme and thinking about it constantly for a long time to actually get it to look how it ended up, I thought it would be great to share. And also this theme, I had so many ideas and I love babbling about my journal, so that's why we are here. This is my BuJo content planner, so this is where I plan my themes, and I'm just gonna open up to where I planned October. This is my October planning spread. I don't usually go through a double page. My themes, I usually have a concept and it comes together quite easily. For example, this is my planning spread for July. So I knew the cover page, I knew that I wanted tabs, and I wanted the tabs to show on the cover page. I thought about doing individual boxes for the calendar, but I knew that I wanted to do a pattern, and then the weeklies are gonna be all the same, and I knew I wanted this to be the look of my review, but I ended up switching it around, but didn't need to sketch it out in a thumbnail. So that was, easy, simple, straight to the point, was able to translate it into my BuJo quite easily. October was not so. This went through quite a few phases and I switched around my ideas and the layouts quite a bit. So I wanted to discuss all of that. And we will go about it by phases, I believe. And in each phase, I'm gonna discuss each spread and the ideas I had. So in phase one, and this is the original idea and the simplest, for the cover page, and this is the one page that did not change at all in all of the phases. I always knew that I'm gonna have the castle and it's gonna be on a black piece of paper, and that's all I knew about it. I wasn't sure about the title. I wasn't sure I was gonna include it at all, because this is the image that inspired the whole setup. I did think about whipping out my iPad and showing you the images in real life on Pinterest. However, I don't know how comfortable it would be to look at my iPad screen with some glare from the light above. So I decided that I'm just gonna do the usual and pop the image on the screen. So that's that. I actually did the cover page maybe mid-August, I think, quite in advance, just because I was really excited about doing it. And it never hurts to be a bit early in setting up. If I didn't do the cover page in mid-August, I probably wouldn't have a theme for October at all, because I was really busy in September. Anyway, so that's that. And then I thought that I was gonna do this layout, and all of my spreads are going to be encapsulated in this small booklet. So I thought I was going to have a bunch of frames, much more than this, and a lot of like ornaments. I thought I was going to have like a bird cage here, and the broom was going to be leaning on the booklet, and I'm going to have a black cat here somewhere, and I'm going to have my calendar, dashboard, all of my weeklies, my trackers, and my review in this small booklet, obviously with a lot more pages in here. But then I thought about it, and I was finding such good inspo images, and I had a lot of competing ideas I was like, okay, why limit myself with just those two spreads when I could do so much more for this theme? And you know, if I'm gonna do a witch's theme, I might as well do it justice and go all out. And that was especially true after I got my cauldron mug. So that was the start, and thank goodness I hadn't sketched anything else when I decided to change around things. So this has quickly become just my weekly log, and now we are entering into phase 2, and I thought about doing a calendar that I have already done before. And I have my BuJo here. I whipped it out from the archives to show you. This is my BuJo from 2019. No, this is from 2020. Or is it 2019? Let's see. So it's 2020. Anyway, I did a skeletons theme for October, and I saw this one calendar page on Pinterest. I will try to find it. But basically it was like a black background with skulls, and these are prints, by the way. I did not draw these in, however I did go over them with a jelly roll and a fine liner to give them a sketchier look, because I didn't want them to look printed. I am a fraud, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, and I thought about doing that. And I did want a dark background for the calendar, however I didn't want to use black paper for the background. And let me try to find it, but I had a washi tape that I was gonna use, and I was really excited about the prospect of using it. Can't find it within my immediate corner here, but I will grab it. So I had this, here it is, this roll of washi that is black with scratches basically, and I thought this would be great to add texture, and I was going to add it just around the calendar, so the calendar would be the gray paper, and I'm gonna, you know, I had more prints of these skulls, and I would just glue them around the calendar. And it wasn't the idea of repeating a layout that I had already done that turned me off of this, but through the planning of the other pages, I realized that I was leaning towards a Halloween theme rather than a witchy theme, because skulls aren't truly witchy, and that's not where I wanted to be headed. And that was the main reason why we transitioned into phase 3, is after I selected all of the layouts and the theme for each spread, I was realizing that it was not witchy for the most part. It was more so elements of Halloween that each spread had, so that's why I diverted away from that. I don't celebrate Halloween and I don't believe in it, so that's not what I wanted to do, and that's why I switched it around. But it would be really cool to use this washi tape and, you know, do the skulls, and maybe I will do that at a later point, but that day was not today, or the day I set up. Anyway, and then for the dashboard, this is where I had the most trouble. I thought about doing a gigantic let me open up to a blank page. I thought about doing a gigantic spider crawling onto the page, and honestly, one of the reasons why I didn't do that, it personally creeped me out, other than it being not witchy enough. So I thought about doing that and having a bunch of cobwebs behind the writable areas, and I will put an image on the screen that inspired this. And I really thought about doing that. I thought about making the writable areas in the shape of like a grave, a tomb shape. Is this a tomb or a grave? Oh my god, I cannot remember what the shape is called. Anyway, but I also didn't want to add that in because I didn't like the feel of death or the aesthetic of death, if you will. In my bullet journal, I really didn't want that, so I didn't want to add that shape in. And then the spider creeped me out, so I had to scrap that idea. And then for my review, I was going to have like tree branches with full moon in the background and maybe a bat hanging or an owl with just the sections down below. And then I was gonna have the frame with the witches with Let's Get Wicked behind it. And that was phase 2. So the calendar on a separate page, my dashboard on a separate page, and my review on a separate page, with the weeklies being the same as I've done them, basically. Then that changed to phase 3 because, as I said, the more I thought about it, I realized that I was heading in a different direction than my original idea, and I didn't necessarily like that or internally accept it. So I decided to change it around, and we have a sub section, or maybe this is phase 3. Was this phase 3? Which phase are we on? So this is phase 1, this is phase 2, and now we are on to phase 3. I think I've gotten myself confused. Anyway, my next idea, and I scrapped this, I'm just gonna preface this by saying that I scrapped this only because I have a spiral bound notebook and I'm working in a spiral bound notebook. If I was working in a hardbound notebook, this idea would have looked so freaking cool, and I'm low-key upset about it, especially since this notebook does come in a hardbound version. I just didn't know it until after I've set up July, and at that point it was too late. I did not want to repeat anything, so I'm upset about that a little bit, especially since nobody told me. But oh well, tough luck. If I do end up doing something similar to this, then I can have my vision completed. But anyway, what I was trying to say is phase 3 is I wanted to have a fireplace under the shelf. So under this booklet, on this side and this side, I would have a fireplace with a cauldron, because I wanted to make the cauldron a big feature, and I thought that was a great way to make it so. And also that was why I originally decided to burn the edges, because this booklet would lie directly on top of the fireplace, so it's getting slowly burnt. I thought it was a nice touch, I guess. But yeah, I actually sketched it. I was on call with some friends, and I sketched it. I sketched the fireplace, and I was gonna have here like some tea brewing alongside the cauldron. I was gonna add like a teacup and stuff. And the only reason why I did that is, again, I just could not get past the spiral bound breaking up the fireplace. I just didn't like it. Even after I've sketched it and everything, I kept looking at it and it just didn't look good. I didn't like how it looked because the spiral bound was breaking it up, and I was low-key really upset about it because it's such a cool concept. But yeah, unfortunately it did not work out. And this is where I was gonna have the broom lining against the fireplace, and then I was gonna have a black cat walking out. Actually, you can still sort of see my rough sketch of a cat here that I forgot to erase. I could not figure out a good position of the cat to sketch it here. It's either the body looked wrong when I sketched it, or the size just never worked out. So I ended up not putting a cat at all, which is unfortunate, but you know, we have the cat eyes, so that's nice. But I feel like a black cat is such a signature witchy element, but I tried to add it in various ways and in various places, and it just did not work out, unfortunately. So that was phase 3, you could say. And I was gonna have, again, a cage here with maybe an owl, and I was gonna have the chest of skulls down below here and have a teacup instead here, but it just did not work out. I also couldn't find a cage reference image that did not have other elements with it, such as flowers and things, and I really needed a clear inspo image because I don't know how to draw cages. And I thought about having the cage open and maybe the owl or the raven flying or, you know, sitting somewhere on this page, but I just could not figure it out. So that's why we scrapped the idea. I do have some notes here. We will read the notes. So my note here was remove the fireplace, add a cushion or armchair maybe, and make the broom mounted, because you know, I was trying to figure out how I was actually gonna edit this page, and that's what I said. So I was gonna add maybe a chair here, an armchair, but that also, I just didn't want to add that for some reason. I didn't sit well with the page, I guess. Haha, sit, armchair, I am so funny. Anyway, I am slowly getting sick. I can feel it. I've taken some medication, but if I sound loopy, that's why. Is loopy the correct word? I don't know. Anyway, so I did not end up putting an armchair or a cushion here. I thought about adding like a small pet bed with the cat like sleeping, but did not like that either. And then I ended up putting the broom on the wall, like mounted, such as this, because there is no fireplace for it to lean against. It did not make sense in my brain, so we did not do it. And that takes us to the final phase where we landed and where I actually, you know, did it in my BuJo, which is because I wanted a fireplace. I sketched it here, and I thought this was going to be my dashboard, and I was gonna have like single boxes for the calendar with a chandelier and the ornamental skull tables and decoration that I ended up doing here, but I ended up switching it around right after I sketched them. I thought it would be I pictured how my calendar would look if I did it this way, so I ended up swiftly switching them around. And I left a note here that says switch and do the calendar in one piece with burnt edges, which is what I did, and I really like that. I have yet to glue it down because I feel like this would be a nice place to put some hidden things. I'm not sure, maybe I'll end up gluing them, but I also feel like not gluing them highlights that they are separate pieces, and I like that sort of. So yeah, originally I was gonna have the fireplace towards the middle a little bit, and then have my 4 sections for my dashboard just on this page in a very simple 4-box layout. But then as I said, I imagined this in my head, I had a vision, and I decided to switch it around. And then I started to work on this page, and I knew I wanted the chandelier here and the mini tables with the candles here, and so it was a matter of figuring out how I wanted the sections to flow with the page, and that is when I came across these hanging ornamental things, and I thought it would be cool to have them hanging, but I didn't want to have them hanging here as well because there's already a chandelier. So that's why I imitated the look of the tables here, so that 2 sections are standing and 2 sections are hanging, and everything is balanced. And then for my review page, I ended up doing the, you know, black piece of paper with the burnt edges. This is a full sheet of my sketchbook that I sort of ripped off the edges and burnt it, but because I burnt it, we lost some of the real estate. However, this is plenty enough space, and I ended up writing October review. I found this font, and you know, it tied everything together because All this planning did not happen in one sitting, and this theme lived in my head rent-free for weeks on end, and I just kept rolling it in my brain and thinking through the things until I accepted them and internalized them and liked how the idea sounded and liked how I sketched it, it finally came together. And I was trying to test the font here a little bit, and I really liked it. The original idea was to buy nail art stickers in the Gothic or classical Gothic font, and I would use that for everything. And that's why I didn't think through the header on the cover page, because I was just gonna put the stickers down here that spells October. However, I did not end up ordering soon enough, just because it wasn't feasible. Basically, I just didn't order, I couldn't. So I really didn't want to sketch that font myself, to do it by hand for some reason. It really turned me off that I would have to do it myself. So I kept looking for fonts until I came across this one, the one I used, and I fell in love with it. I really liked it, and I just could see it fitting so well with the theme. It gave enough witchy vibes with enough of a fancy and simple font that I really loved it. And I tried it on these sections first, and I loved how they looked, so I ended up, doing them here and all of that. One thing I don't like is how small the cauldron ended up being for how much I wanted it to be a feature. I just should have enlarged it a little bit, but oh well, at least it's there. And it's visible, because my original idea, it would only be visible if I flipped through to it. So yeah. And the things that didn't change are the calendar page, this end page, because I really felt like I should end this with some decorative page. Sometimes it just feels necessary, and the right thing to do with a theme is to have an end illustration. I've done this before, where I've done a completely useless page just to end the theme. It felt necessary here, especially since I wanted another big ornamental frame and I wanted to illustrate the witches so bad. So I did it here. And then using the purple shimmer, like, it occurred to me on a whim. I can't remember how I decided on this, but basically I was gathering supplies and, I have purple shimmer, and purple is such a witchy theme, and I don't get a lot of use of the shimmers that I have, so it was really nice to have it here. And it added a nice pop of color that is sort of subtle, because this is a dark shade, but it added a nice touch. I rave about this every time, but the cat eyes just glimmer, and I love how they look. The one thing I wish I did though was add a matte base to the shimmers. So here in the potion bottles, I went directly with the with the purple shimmer. I wish I had gone with purple gouache or a purple marker and then added the shimmer on top. This is what I did for the fortune ball. I did some gray and then added the black shimmer, and it looks nicer in my opinion. So yeah, but it's such a small thing that I don't mind it. Like, these are such small, sort of insignificant areas. But yeah. Oh, I want to add, before I had decided to make my review page this way, I actually thought about bringing back the crawling spider and having my sections there. But the same reasons why I scrapped it the first time were relevant the second time, which is they creeped me out and they were not witchy enough. So that is that. I think that was all my ideas for this theme. If I end up remembering things afterwards, I will just insert a clip, but I do believe that was all. Oh, let's talk about this before I close off. So for the frames, I mentioned in the setup that I wish that I had made them bigger, and that still holds, because I had so many ideas for what could be in the frames. I wanted maybe an owl, if I didn't do it in the cage because I didn't want to repeat too many things. So I wanted an owl maybe. I wanted the moon phases, not just a full moon, but that ended up being good enough. I wanted a heart, either like a glass vessel with a heart or in one of the frames, but a heart is such a detailed thing and the frames were too small to do a heart. I also wanted maybe a bat or a skull, like a human skull, which did not end up happening, but I added this animal skull and it looks cool enough. So yeah, I hope this gives some perspective into my thought process about this theme and also how much thought has gone into this. As I've said, this has been in the works for more than a month and a half maybe. I've been thinking about this ever since I finished my September setup, and that's usually how I work on my themes. As soon as I finish setting one thing up, I start thinking about the other, which is right here. This is my current thought process for November. I sort of know what I want, but I'm not entirely sure. I want this to be another fully thought out theme without putting too much work into it. Hopefully I'll start, sketching things and planning things next week. And that should probably be my next video, if I don't end up being too busy. This is it for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.